Pope believes we should either burn him or make him Bishop of Kingsbridge.
I have already taken matters into my own hands. My men arrested him while Kingsbridge was left unguarded.
While his friends took Earl's Castle.
Yes.
At least in his death, William Hamley was of use to you.
Look at all these people. Seems like they're enjoying themselves.
They never change. You drooling dogs should be ashamed!
Shut up, you old hag!
Ellen? I'm not feeling well.
I'll stay with you. Go ahead, we'll come after you. Quick, you can't be too late.
Is your mother ill?
It's not that. This is where they hanged my father.
The trial begins. The judges. Brother of Stephen, King of the English. The Right Reverend Bishop Henry of Winchester. Her Highness, the Countess Lady Aliena of Shiring. Presiding over the trial, the Right Reverend Bishop of Shiring and Kingsbridge, Waileron Bygod.
Please. The Church is not without fault. We have gathered here today before the eyes of God to accuse one of our own. He wrote in his book that the Church and the papacy are not necessary as intercessors between God and man. That God is in man, that all men are equal, and that each sinner is as close to our Lord as the Pope himself. Now, we ask God for his judgment. For his is the kingdom, the power, and the glory. Not ours, and not yours. You stand accused of heresy. Philip of Gwynedd, how do you plead? Answer!
I am not guilty.
Your teachings speak another language. Guilty, I say.
I am deeply saddened. It may come as a surprise to you, but we had hoped to make you Bishop of Kingsbridge. Why has it come to this, Philip?
In part, I am to blame. I supported Philip in his early years. I demand that Philip be removed from his position of prior immediately.
No!
And that he remain in captivity until such time that Shiring and all of England have healed from the poisonous words he has dispersed.
No!
What? Yes? Do you not agree with the Church as well, my lady?
You are accusing Philip because he has defied you.
I made him prior, and grateful he was not. But no, I accuse him because his teachings are false. And I intend to prove that Philip's decisions have been more than misguided in the past. Call in Remigius.
The Prior of Shiring, Father Remigius.
My bishop.
Tell the court, Remigius, what you have told me.
For many years, I served as sub-prior of Kingsbridge. First for Prior James, then for the accused.
What was your first impression of him?
I was offended by his bluntness and accusations during the chapter discussions.
What else?
Prior Philip did not hesitate to give refuge to the people fleeing Earl's Castle in the winter that our king died.
Is that not a good deed? A true Christian act?
You do not know him as well as you think you do, Lady Aliena. Today, that will change.
The future master builder of our cathedral and his woman were among those taking refuge. They were living in sin. They were unmarried and fornicating. Philip allowed them to stay.
Why would he do that?
I do not know, my bishop.
Maybe because he himself was involved in similar affairs. We will see.
Then, on the day of our first fleece fair, we were attacked.
I heard. It was terrible.
I tried to soothe the woman's pain by reading the scripture to her. The builder's woman I have spoken of tried to put a spell on her with poisonous herbs.
And Philip intervened.
Yes. He pushed me aside and gave the woman poison.
It is worse than I thought.
It was no poison.
And then there was the day the Virgin Mary's statue arrived in Kingsbridge. I did not believe it was a miracle.
Clearly, it is a miracle. I hear of many who were healed in Kingsbridge.
Yes!
Amen.
Oh, Mary, bless us all!
Well, I soon realized it was a true miracle, but Philip did not. He was only after the money people donated at the Virgin Shrine. That is why I left.
He had to! Amen.
I believe there is one more thing you have not told us about. Something very important.
Yes. Philip has fathered a child.
Unbelievable! I knew it!
A son. And he raised him in the priory.
He is guilty!
Jonathan of Kingsbridge, step forward.
This is preposterous.
Is it?
Is this true? Are you Philip's son? Answer the question, Jonathan of Kingsbridge.
Philip has always been like a father to me. But he is not my father.
How do you know that?
He told me.
And how do you know he spoke the truth?
Speak. Answer the bishop.
Philip would never lie. He told me that I was found in the woods.
In the woods. Is this true, Philip? Or are you lying? Well, you told the story so many times.
He was abandoned in the woods. My brother found him.
Your brother? Had he not been working for Earl Robert of Gloucester? You have not seen him in a long time now, have you? Let us ask your brother if your stories are true.
Francis, what happened to you?
This is not your fault. He does this to hurt you.
By God.
Francis of Gwynedd. He was arrested more than 15 years ago. He was arrested for conspiring against his own master, Earl Robert.
Remove the prisoner.
Philip told me himself, and I told Earl Robert. For God and the Church cannot take sides in these conflicts. Only one brother has been tried so far, but both of them conspired against Earl Robert. And his ally, Earl Bartholomew, your father, Lady Aliena. Philip took in all those refugees years ago because he was to blame for their fate, as he was for yours when you lost your father and your earldom. That, Lady Aliena, is the man you are trying to protect. Well?
I know that he is a troubled man. We've all had to make hard decisions. Decisions that seemed right at the time, when indeed they were terrible mistakes. I am thankful that I was forgiven when I made a mistake. Now I forgive him. Let us now return to the problem at hand. There is a man who witnessed how Jonathan was found in the forest. A man who can shed light on who Jonathan's father really is.
And who is that?
My husband.
Step forward. What is your name?
He is the master builder of Kingsbridge.
Is he now?
Have you lost your courage?
No, I have not. You know well why it would be hard for me to face you. They call me Jack, after my father. My name is Jack Jackson.
Yes, we have met before.
How old were you when you allegedly saw Jonathan as a child in the woods?
12. But I know what I saw. Philip told the truth.
You were a child. And what were you doing there, in the woods?
I was living in the forest, with my mother.
They were outlaws.
Prior Remigius is the most trustworthy witness we've seen today, and his statement was quite damning to Philip. The distant memories of an outlawed child cannot convince me otherwise.
He fathered a child!
Let him go!
He would never do that!
And yet, Lady Aliena is right. We do not know enough to judge him as harshly as you proposed, Bishop Waleran.
You are right, Bishop Henry. As I said, it is not up to us to judge this man. Philip of Gwynedd has pleaded innocent, but how innocent is he? We ask God for his judgment. As Bishop of Kingsbridge and Shiring, I demand an ordeal by fire.
This is madness!
Philip of Gwynedd will be tried and judged at the stake. If he is innocent, God will save him from the flames. If he is not, then he will burn as the heretic and sinner God has declared him to be.
No! Waleran, by God! Not this time.
It's her.
I saw the child and Francis. I was there. Philip is not the child's father. He is a fool, but he is a good man.
Then who is the father?
Tom Builder.
They are all in this together. This woman is a witch and an outlaw, living in sin with a thief. He was hanged in Shiring 30 years ago.
He was not a thief. He was a good man. You've murdered him, Waileran, by God.
What is this nonsense?
He was a thief. He stole a golden chalice and melted it down and sold it.
What chalice?
The chalice of the Eucharist. He stole it from the Cathedral of Kingsbridge.
Sacrilege.
Yes, Prior James of Kingsbridge caught him red-handed.
Is that the chalice? You said it was melted down and sold.
Fall not for their lies. That could be any chalice. This does not prove a thing.
Where did you find this chalice?
In a secret chamber. We believe Prior James hid it because he felt guilty for falsely accusing Jack's father.
What proof do you have?
He told me. The night the cathedral burned down, I was there, I saw him.
Prior James died weeks before that.
No, he did not.
Bishop Henry, he speaks the truth.
Order! I will give you until sunset to produce a witness who can prove your accusations against Bishop Waileran. Not just this chalice. If you fail to do this, I will make sure you are tried for defamation. Philip of Gwynedd, you will stay under arrest. The trial recommences at sunset.
We need a witness.
What are you doing there?
I've seen you draw up plans for a cathedral. Maybe we can do something similar to find our witness. Let's see. Your father.
He looks just like you.
My grandmother said he did.
And Bishop Waileran. What are the connections? Maybe, by exploring them, we can find a witness.
Good idea.
Bishop Waileran is at the center of all this.
Waileran is a man who thinks of himself, not of others.
Jack's father. If he was still with us, he could be our witness.
Maybe he still can. If my father had not come to England, none of this would have happened.
Perhaps.
Or maybe it would have happened to someone else.
That's true. Waileran would have hurt others. He's responsible for all this. And we'll prove that.
Mother says Waileran was behind my father's death.
And she said he wasn't alone. There were 3 men responsible for your father's death. Bishop Waileran, Percy Hamley, back then he was the Sheriff of Shiring, and Prior James of Kingsbridge.
If they're all there, Then they were all witnesses.
And only Wayleran's still alive.
Hardly a coincidence. Why would these three men work together to falsely accuse your father?
He was on the White Ship. No one survived that night. No one lived to tell the story.
Yes. He was the sole survivor.
And then they killed him. But why?
My father wanted to go to England. He was the only one who made it when the White Ship sank.
And what about the ship?
Hardly a coincidence that the king's heirs all died on that ship. Maybe my father knew what happened.
Why would Wayleran, Percy, and James be concerned about the White Ship?
The son and heir of King Henry was on board. So were other possible heirs and other members of the royal household. I heard that Stephen was supposed to be on the ship as well, but became ill. He was the only male heir. The only threats were the king's daughter Maud and her half-brother Earl Robert, and they've been at war ever since.
And your father, Earl Bartholomew. He was a threat. He tried to stop Stephen and paid for that with his life. Maybe my father saw something on the White Ship. Proof that Stephen was involved.
Stephen always claimed that it had been God's will that he was not on that ship. That he remained as the only male heir.
That wasn't God. I bet Stephen had a hand in the sinking of the ship.
Now imagine what would have happened if he had learned that someone survived. Someone who might have seen what really happened that night. My father survived the sea, but those that were behind the sinking of the ship caught up with him in the end.
Wayleran, Percy, and James might have been working for those who sunk the White Ship.
The three people who murdered my father might have worked for someone else. Someone who had an interest in drowning the king's heirs.
Wayleran, Percy, and James might have been working for those who sunk the White Ship.
Hardly a coincidence that the king's heirs all died on that ship. Maybe my father knew what happened.
What about the king?
Do you think Stephen would have approached Percy directly?
Because of the White Ship? To help him cover up his tracks?
I don't think so. I think it's more likely that Wayleran contacted Percy. Just like he did when he wanted Percy to arrest my father. If the White Ship is involved, then it's likely that Wayleran was told by King Stephen to murder your father.
But he was not king back then. Why would Wayleran listen to him?
He was promised to become bishop.
Of course.
Remember, Bishop Henry is Stephen's brother, and back then he was already one of the most influential clerics in all of England.
But if Bishop Henry is in on all this, what chance do we have to turn this trial around?
It is a public trial. All we want is for Philip to go free. We find a witness to expose Wayleran. Henry would have to play along to appear innocent.
Are you sure that's a good idea?
It's our best shot.
Do you think the king told James to arrest my father?
No. I find it much more likely that James was instructed to frame your father by Wayleran, his superior. As Archdeacon, Wayleran was much more involved in politics than James would have been.
Do you really believe the king is involved in all this?
Well, that would at least explain why Wayleran asked Bishop Henry to be part of this trial.
Right. He's Stephen's brother. They seem to have known each other for a long time.
If Stephen was responsible for the sinking of the White Ship, then he may have wanted the only witness of what really happened to disappear.
But he wouldn't have done it himself, of course.
No.
The King of the English. A ruthless murderer.
I don't think the king was very close with Percy. Otherwise, there would have been many arrests after Percy was poisoned. But the king didn't seem to care.
It's possible that King Stephen asked Wayleran to kill Jack's father. It is unlikely Prior James ever met the king. If Stephen is involved, then his brother Bishop Henry would be as well.
My father was right about Stephen.
If the king is behind all this, what chance do we have to stop Wayleran and save Philip?
We must do our best.
William Hamley's father.
The king made Percy Earl of Shiring. Maybe because he was indebted to Percy. And not only because he had arrested Earl Bartholomew.
The King of the English. A ruthless murderer. Now, what about Prior James?
The three people who murdered my father might have worked for someone else. Someone who had an interest in drowning the king's heirs.
The king and Prior James are connected. Not directly, but through Wayleran. It's possible that King Stephen asked Wayleran to kill Jack's father.
Is King Stephen behind all this? Then what about his brother, Bishop Henry? Percy Hamley was involved in all this.
But the dead don't talk.
True. What we need is a witness, a living one. Percy Hamley was the sheriff of Shiring. Well, he could have ordered your father to be hanged.
But he was arrested and held in Kingsbridge first. Prior James claimed that my father had committed theft. My father survived the sea, but those that were behind the sinking of the ship caught up with him in the end. As a child, I thought the king would be a hero, like Alexander the Great. My father was younger than I am now when he died. Wayleran will pay for what he did to him.
We must find a witness or Wayleran will burn Philip. What kind of man would kill so many for a wooden throne and a crown?
My father was right about Stephen. think the king was very close with Percy. Otherwise, there would have been many arrests after Percy was poisoned. But the king didn't seem to care.
If Stephen is involved, then his brother Bishop Henry would be as well. It is unlikely Prior James ever met the king.
If the king is behind all this, what chance do we have to stop Waleran and save Philip?
We must do our best.
The King of the English. A ruthless murderer.
I wonder if my father ever learned why he was killed. Hardly a coincidence that the king's heirs all died on that ship. Maybe my father knew what happened.
Is King Stephen behind all this? Then what about his brother, Bishop Henry?
Percy was involved in the hanging here in Shiring. He was the sheriff. Waleran, Percy, and James were behind the death of Jack's father.
Percy Hamley was poisoned.
One less witness that knew about Waleran.
And Waleran probably wanted William to become Earl. He was easier to control than his father.
What about Regan Hamley? She survived.
She was taken to her townhouse in Winchester. And in her condition, she might not be able to help at all.
The king made Percy Earl of Shiring. Maybe because he was indebted to Percy. And not only because he had arrested Earl Bartholomew.
How are Prior James and Percy Hamley connected?
Not at all, I would guess.
Except through Bishop Waleran.
Yes. He needed James to arrest my father and Percy Hamley to hang him.
Now both of them are dead. That can't be a coincidence. It's possible that King Stephen asked Waleran to kill Jack's father.
So, what about Prior James and Waleran?
Waleran was not yet bishop when the hanging took place. He was archdeacon. Philip told me.
But James still had to do what Waleran told him to?
I think that's very likely.
Percy could not have become Earl without Waleran's help. But then he was killed. Maybe he wasn't as useful an Earl as Waleran had hoped.
Percy ordered Jack's father to be hanged, but he was arrested by Prior James. Waleran was James's superior. Waleran may have ordered James to accuse Jacques Cherbourg of theft. Waleran was James's superior. If Stephen is involved, then his brother Bishop Henry would be as well.
Waleran, Percy, and James might have been working for those who sunk the White Ship. I don't think the king was very close with Percy. Otherwise, there would have been many arrests after Percy was poisoned. But the king didn't seem to care.
It's possible that King Stephen asked Waleran to kill Jack's father. The king and Prior James are connected. Not directly, but through Waleran.
If the king is behind all this, what chance do we have to stop Waleran and save Philip?
We must do our best.
Waleran may have ordered James to accuse Jacques Cherbourg of theft. Percy and James died under mysterious circumstances, and Wayleran lives.
James was the prior of Kingsbridge.
That's where they say your father stole the chalice, melted it and sold it.
But we know that's not true.
As we found it, Philip recognized the chalice.
But Bishop Henry wants a witness. The chalice isn't enough.
But it's an important lead for us. I think we're getting closer.
Maybe Stephen never came up with the plan to hang your father.
You mean Wayleran did it because he heard rumors and wanted to get closer to Stephen and Bishop Henry? Maybe.
So Wayleran and the others claimed your father had stolen a chalice from Kingsbridge Cathedral, and that he sold it.
Yes.
We know that's not true, but we need a witness.
It's the only way to help Philip.
The chalice was used to kill the last survivor of the White Ship.
Yes.
James claimed that your father had stolen the chalice and sold it. But instead, James himself hid it in Kingsbridge, in the crypt.
We found his scourge in a bed down there.
That secret chamber is important.
We're close.
Everyone thought Prior James was dead, that he broke into the ice. And now we know he was hidden away.
Why did his monks believe he was dead?
Sub-Prior Remigius told everyone he had found James' rosary by the river. So everyone thought the body had been washed away. They buried an empty casket.
But how is Remigius involved?
Philip told me that Remigius was there when Wayleran made Philip prior. Wayleran and Remigius knew each other.
That explains why Wayleran later made Remigius prior of Shiring.
And Remigius recognized my mother when we arrived in Kingsbridge. He must have been there at the time my father was arrested. I think Remigius knows all about this.
Is it possible that Wayleran told Remigius to make Prior James disappear when James began to talk about what they'd done?
When James started talking to the devil.
But for some reason, Remigius hid him away. But Wayleran never knew. Yes, that explains why he really didn't believe you. When you said you had seen James in the fire.
Where James died after all. And Remigius thought no one knew.
We have to find Remigius. He's our witness.
Let's hurry. It's getting dark already. The trial will continue soon.
People know you two. You shouldn't walk around shiring like that.
He's right.
I'll go look for him.
All right. Take care of yourself. And Jonathan.
Yes?
We will talk later about what was said today. About Tom.
All right. Remigius, now where are you? Brothers?
What is it?
Have you seen the Prior of Shiring, Remigius?
We have not. And now step back, brother. We must be done by nightfall.
Have you seen Father Remigius, the Prior of Shiring?
He was here a moment ago.
Where's he now?
What do you want with him? Yeah, what do you want with him?
Oh, forget it. He was here. Hello? No one's home. Everyone left for the trial, it seems. I don't see anyone here. Hello? They're all gone.
No one may approach the pyre.
Why not?
Bishop Henry's orders.
All right. They haven't seen him. No one's home.
Do you want to go in, Father?
No, not yet. Thank you.
Are you not with Prior Philip?
Yes, I am.
I pray they'll set him free.
He's a good man.
He is a heretic!
You're fools! Look at yourselves! Who are you to judge a man who has never hurt anyone?
Forgive them, Father.
We don't judge him, but God will!
Remigius? I don't think he's here. Wait, was that him? I think I saw him. Hello? The door's open. Is anyone there?
You had one task.
By God! No!
Our bishop is very displeased.
No! What are you doing?
I'm doing what is asked of me.
Stop it!
No! Stay away! This does not concern you! No!
Who told you to do this?
No one!
Why did he do this to you?
I will tell you. I will tell everyone.
Do you have a witness?
Father Remigius, Prior of Shiring.
Where is Timothy?
What they told you is true. Bishop Waleran wanted the jongleur Jacques Cherbourg dead. He ordered our Prior James to frame him. And so he did.
This is a lie!
Is it?
James lost his mind because of what he did for you. He was about to tell everyone the truth. And then you ordered me to kill him.
Nonsense!
Let him speak.
I couldn't do it. I hit him, but he died in the fire. Jack saw him. It was him. I found the bones after the fire, and I buried them.
You should put an end to this, Henry. You really should.
Why would I?
You should stop this, for your own sake. You knew about all this.
Why would I care if that jongleur lived or died?
Your brother cared. The jongleur survived the sinking of the White Ship. He saw how your brother's men killed the king's family so that he could take the throne.
This is preposterous.
Bishop Henry and King Stephen ordered us to kill the man. You want the truth? That's the truth. Right there.
It is not. Waleran is a liar.
Regan Hamley.
Who is she?
I have waited long enough for this day. It is time I raise my voice. The woman, Ellen, she spoke the truth. 3 men were responsible for the death of the jongleur. James, the prior of Kingsbridge. The sheriff, my husband, Percy Hamley. But it was Waleran who was behind it. And only Waleran.
No!
He had heard rumors about the White Ship, about our king. He had hoped to win the king's favor by hanging an innocent man.
But it was not just me. They all knew.
Take him away.
This is for taking my husband's life.
It was Waleran!
Oh, we did it. It's over.
Yes, it's over.
Thank you, Lady Hamley.
This monk must learn his lesson.
The Pope would agree. This trial is not over. Philip pleaded not guilty, but he challenged the teachings and the authority of the Church. The ordeal of fire will take place. To show that the Church is not above God. To show that my brother, the King of the English, is not above God. Not we, but God shall judge this man.
This is madness!
No, he can't do this.
Philip! No! You cannot do this!
This is now a matter of the Church, Lady Aliena. My brother, the King, and I accepted the traitor Waleran into our midst. We were fools and sinners, even if we did not know. I pray that our Lord will save Philip from these flames, for his salvation shall be a salvation for all of us sinners.
Our Father who art in heaven,
Hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us
Light
this
the
day
pyre!
our daily bread.
My God, there must be something we can do!
Stop this madness!